If you like what we're doing here on The Official, go ahead and like and subscribe to this very video you're watching right now. And I'm going to kick it to David to talk about Deuce Knight, who should be suiting up for his team, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, in 2025.
Yeah, Deuce Knight. He's the QB7 on the on3 industry, 59th overall. He's been verified at 6'4.5", 206 pounds with a 9.5-inch hand. Goes to George County High School in Mississippi. Actually, at the beginning of last year, he started at Lipscomb Academy. After 3 games, he decided to transfer back to George County. He got homesick apparently. So he's back at George County for his senior season. They are the 54th ranked team in Mississippi with a 24 team power rating and an 18th strength of schedule according to Max Preps. So not like the strongest team, not the strongest competition. From a production standpoint, he's not there yet. He's kind of behind the ball a little bit. He completed 53% of his passes last season with a 7.7 yards per attempt. Although he did have 17 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, so you'd like to see the low interception total. Also can do a little bit of running with 494 yards rushing at a 5 yards per carry clip with 11 more touchdowns on the ground. I think he's got a bit of a long motion. It's a little slow. And as you can see, kind of like you talked about with Zollers, a lot of these receivers are just wide open. He's throwing like a lot of just like fades to just an area. From most of the reports you're gonna read about it, like from the summer and stuff, like OT7 and stuff, is like he's a streaky passer. His ball placement can be a little up and down. I think he needs to work on his mechanics and tightening up that motion a little bit and, improving his accuracy overall. But you can see he can throw with some touch. He can ramp it up when he needs to, right? We have a kind of a low velocity on him, actually, like 50 to 52, it's like average. It's around average, I would say. I imagine he's put on like 10, 15 pounds, since last season already, it seems like. And that's like kind of like the appeal with him. Like he's got, quote unquote physical upside. He should, continue to fill out. Like he's got a big frame. He's a really good tester, and I think that's part of the reason why people are excited about him. Like he ran like a 4.53 40. He had a 41.9-inch vertical jump, which we adjust those down a little bit because it's on the jump pad and those are inflated by like 4 inches. So regardless, it's like a 38-inch vertical or something like that. So real good tester. You can see he can jump though, like on the basketball court. He's got some pretty good dunks. So he is athletic. I don't know, as far as his running, I don't know what you guys think is like how much that's going to like necessarily translate. There's not a lot of 6'4.5", like guys that are over 6'4" that are like super dynamic runners in general. And also he's not like a Cam Newton type guy where he's like this big bully type. So that's like kind of my question is like what's his upside as far as like fantasy? I think there's a lot to work with. I think he will probably need a couple of years to sit. Depending on how he looks his senior year, maybe he'll some guys just take a big step. It sounds like he's starting to look good during the summer camp circuit and stuff. So, but I think he's going to be a guy that will need a couple of years of seasoning. So what do you guys think?
All right. I'll go last. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I really don't have any gripes with that either. I really impressed. He makes some really, really impressive splash throws from time to time. Just high velocity throws, 40 yards to down the field. They're like perfect placement. But again, the consistency is the issue. Barely 50% completion rating, not going to do it. Although the low interception rate does suggest that maybe it's not that bad, and he just got unlucky, which does happen. As opposed to Zollers, I do think he's very aggressive with how he throws. I mean, he trusts his wide receivers, and he will throw it into a tight window, no questions asked, which probably is also why he threw barely over 50%. It's not gonna work out all the time. Maybe he needs to tone it back there a little bit. But really high upside player. Just on the physicals alone, ball velocity probably higher than we have now. Visually it looks higher than that. I'll have to go back and recheck. But 52 is good, so it's not a concerning number at the least. So I don't know. I like him a lot. Few concerns about him, as a passer. But we'll see what he does in Notre Dame, especially with CJ Carr apparently looking good and being the much more consistent player. So
yeah,
I think that could make it hard for him to get on the field there.
Yeah, and Carr will have, I guess, 2 years. Freshman year this year for Carr, right? So he'll have only 1 year ahead of him. I mean, I don't know if it's really backed by tons of data, but that long motion, bothers me a little bit. I think it's tough to repeat. But when he's on, and, that does make sense with the streaky thing that you've heard from some of the camps. When he's on, though, he has a cannon. I mean, I was shocked actually watching the tape right after I watched Zoller's. And Zoller's, I'm sitting there going, I bet this is probably like fringy 51, 52, maybe a little lower than that. And he clocks in at 55. And then I watched this guy, and I'm like, well, I bet he's pushing 60 velocity. And it was 52 because he looks like he really can rifle it in there. And when he dials it in, he can put it in like, short slants and stuff. He can fire it in there. But it doesn't always show up that way, of course. And that long motion, I think as the game gets elevated each time, you have less time to throw, an inch of a fingertip, hitting the ball or whatever does matter from time to time. The running, he just doesn't look like a natural runner. I mean, he can do it. He's like athletic enough, but Michael Penix just ran like a 4.5 and he, on a straight line, but he's not a running quarterback. So, I don't know. It didn't strike me as Knight translating, and he is a string bean. You said he's not Cam Newton, David. He's the opposite of Cam Newton. I mean, it's projectable. Maybe he puts on 30, 40 pounds in college. Who knows? But he is skinny at that 6'5". And so like Jaden Daniels level skinny, that kind of body frame. So he's projectable. I'll agree with that. He didn't strike me as just ready. He's raw. And like you said, great point out that some guys do take a leap as a senior. But right now he feels, pretty raw. And maybe it's a good thing to go wait 2 or 3 years behind CJ Carr. And we're not that worried about age with quarterbacks anyway. So, he doesn't have to be a 4-year starter or anything like that to make it to the NFL. So I think we kind of hit on him pretty consistently between the three of us. But, there's definitely some upside with Deuce Knight.